A couple of weekends ago, the fraternity I belonged to in Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, celebrated 100 years on the campus of Ohio University. Make sure it's on. It was the Alpha Tau chapter of Theta Chi fraternity. And I was a member of that fraternity from spring of 1985. Well, I was an active member. I guess technically I'm still a member, but I was an active member from spring of 1985 until summer or June of 1988 when I graduated. And, I saw pictures of some of the guys that went to the 100th anniversary party. I didn't go. It was my wife and my 21st wedding anniversary. And we stayed at home to go to dinner and visit my mother-in-law. But it was a long time ago, and a lot of the guys, we've all gotten older. Myself, I don't look the same as I did in 1985, that's for sure. And as I watched this, I went to the 75th anniversary of my fraternity, and I was there for the 60th, because when I was a pledge at the fraternity, I was there for the 60th anniversary. We had a big party. There was a lot of fun. And then 75th was in 2000. And I went with a few guys, Eric and George. George was in my pledge class. Eric, Eric was in my pledge class. George was like 1 or 2 years older than me. I don't remember. I think he was 2 years older than me. And we all went down and we had a great time. And I was literally wasted, I think, for like 4 days, from like Thursday through Sunday. I was blotto. This is back when I drank pretty heavy. We had a great time. And there were a lot of people at this party back then. But, 25 years have gone by, and I don't really drink anymore. Some of it's for health reasons. Some of it's by choice. But I remember at 75th, me and Eric and George and a bunch of fraternity brothers were sitting in this bar in Ohio University on Court Street called The Junction. We all sat down for lunch one day, I think it was like Saturday afternoon, and we were all reminiscing about the good old days, And we were all saying how cool it would be, so great if we could come back to school again. We were all pining for those days, because not just being in Theta Chi, but also being on the campus of Ohio University was a tremendous time. It's the best, probably the best, if not number 2 best time in my life, aside from being 9 and 10 years old when I lived in Maple Manor Apartments in Chardon and hung out with some really cool kids and played baseball and football and swam in the pool every summer. But for all of us, everybody that I know that went to OU, almost everybody, my wife went there for 2 years and she didn't like going there. She didn't like OU, and she has no romanticized fantasies or ideas about what it was. She transferred to Ohio State. But that's a whole nother story. I think she's the only person I've ever met that didn't like OU and doesn't wish they could go back there. But everybody I know, well, I don't know. I don't know about my dad. My dad graduated from there in 1950. My mom went there. I never heard my mom really pining about OU. But that's, again, another story. But my whole family went there. But everybody I know from my time, we wish we could go back. We wish we could go back to those days. So we're sitting in the Junction, we're eating burgers, we're drinking beer, and we're all just like, oh man, wouldn't it be great to go back? Wouldn't it be so cool to be back here again and just live down here? And it was like almost in unison. We all got really quiet and looked down. And I remember George just looked up and said, nah, it wouldn't be the same unless we were all down here together. And he was right. I guess, in a way, what he was saying is you can't go back. And all you can do is embrace the memories, the good memories you have from those times. And just, cherish them and hold them in your heart. And reflect on them and remember them for what they were, good times. And that was 25 years ago. I don't know Personally, I don't know, how people saw it when they were down there for the 100th. I think everybody had a good time. It looks like people had a good time. We're all older, and we're all in various states of aging. And it made me think back to my freshman year in college. It made me think back to the year leading up to going to college, your preparation for college, applying to different schools, taking the ACT, everyone telling you that this is going to be the best time of your life. This, my mother especially said, you're going to have a great time. You're just going to have the best time of your life. Be excited about it. You're going to go move away from home, and you're going to learn new things, meet new people. And she was right. She was completely right. And other people told me the same thing. College was this amazing time. It really was. And it's hard to believe that, looking back now, I'm going to be 60 this October. As I look back on it and think back, I was only 18. I was a kid. I'm wandering around this campus of a high university. I lived on East Green, and it was just the most beautiful place. It was like heaven. It was, especially for a heterosexual guy, straight guy. You walk out of Washington Hall, and my head was on a swivel, man. I surprised my head didn't snap off my shoulders, because there were so many good-looking girls on this campus. I mean, oh my God. The ugliest girls on this campus made the best-looking girls in my high school look like complete dogs. And I'm just walking around this campus like, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I believe it was my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law, I think, tried to drop me off at Washington Hall. I had a duffel bag of clothes and a couple of posters and a boom box, and that was it. This is 1984. This is September of 1984. I didn't have a stereo. I think Mom packed me a box of food. Like, I don't remember what it was, but she probably gave me like a go bag of crackers and potato chips and crack cookies or something. I don't know. And, I got a little choked up as I watched them drive away. I think it's called Washington Street. I think is what it was called. I don't remember the street that went beyond Washington Hall. It was a street that divided East Green from South Green, and you would walk over the street and over a railroad tracks, and you would be in South Green. And as they drove away, I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm alone. I'm away from home. I got a little choked up. Then I went, oh, look at that girl over there. And I immediately forgot about home. And for 4 years, I don't think I was ever homesick. I don't think so. I was having such a good time. And when you're that young and you're in that atmosphere, it's a fantasy world. You're walking around in a fantasy world. You can do anything you want. Anything was possible. And everybody, at least in my era, seemed to get along. I mean, they were gay, straight, black, white, Iranian, all kinds of Asian people, everybody on campus. I don't remember hearing of anybody getting mugged or jumped or attacked because of their sexual preferences or the color of their skin. It seemed to be pretty balanced. I think it's changed a lot over the last 40 years or so. And I just remember just being in heaven. And this is back when Van Halen's album 1984 had just come out, man. And you would walk out into this courtyard in front of Washington Hall, and every guy had their window open in their dorm room. And everybody, I'm exaggerating, but it seemed like the album that was playing, they put their speakers in the window. They put the album 1984 on their turntable, and they put the speakers out the window of their dorm room, and they would blast 1984's, Jump and Panama, and all that stuff was just like, just blaring out in the courtyard as we're all out there, guys playing hacky sack and playing catch with the football. My friend Pete and I were playing catch with the frisbee. And I met my friend Pete. He lived across the hall from me, and we've been friends for 40 years. And it's hard to believe that at that age, I was free, and I was filled with hope, and I was filled with wonder, and I was happy, and I was looking forward to the future, and I completely had bought into the romanticized story of what college was, what it would bring me, what it would do. A lot of the things they told me were true. It was a lot of fun. It was a blast. It was like a very expensive youth resort for men and women. You're supposed to go down there to learn and get a degree so you can get a job in the real world. But, every other guy I met were just talking about girls, 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 And it was, I remember there's this one girl, I don't even remember her name, but there was this girl my freshman year on East Green that had this I don't know what nationality she was. I think she was white, but she might have been like Lebanese or something. And she had this long black hair, this full black hair. And oh, she was gorgeous. And she would just walk out of, God, what hall was that she lived in? I think she lived in, ironically enough, she lived in Bush Hall. And oh, she'd walk out the door and she'd just float across the campus. It's like, oh, there she is. My friend Pete, this guy, this asshole in the dorm, his name was Steve. He looked kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. He had these really big bug eyes. He said I was Pete the Stalker. And I wasn't stalking this girl, but every time I saw her, I was just like, oh my God, look, there she is again. And there was this other girl that was kind of like I don't know what you call her exactly. She was kind of what you would call today probably gothic, but not quite. She was really tall, like 5'11", and she had this really long, I guess she was kind of a punk kind of girl. And she had this long, like stringy hair, and she wore really, for the time, she was wearing pretty exotic clothing. She had like a fur coat that was like waist long with big furry cuffs, and she had these boots, these big furry boots that made her feet look like Bigfoot. And she had the nicest ass in the world, man. She had these skin tight jeans she wore all the time, and she was just like this big Amazonian girl, but she was gorgeous. And I see her, I was like, oh. I never did. I had no self-confidence back then. I had none, so I never talked to these ladies. I didn't date anybody until my sophomore year. And it was just so much fun. And, well, I've said on here that I don't believe in college. I'm not a big advocate for going to university unless you're going to study something that's geared to get you a job, like an attorney or an engineer or a doctor or something like that. It's just it's an indescribable experience of great joy and happiness and hope. And it's one of the only places on the planet where I can go and just feel new again, feel fresh, feel hopeful. It's one of the only places, it's probably the only place where there's no bad memories down there. Like nothing bad happened there while I was there. Like my second place is my hometown, but a lot of bad shit happened there. So every time I go there, there's little ghosts there that, well, some of the big ghosts that haunt me every time I walk down those streets. But when I go to Athens, when I go to OU, it's nothing but good memories. I mean, just laughter and dancing and wild sex and friends and just, I experienced everything. In those 4 years, I experienced everything. And I think we all look back on it because once you leave that little domed youth utopia, and they push you off in the real world, I don't know what the rest of you do with school, college, but it was a kick in the balls for me. I completely just, I had some success. I mean, I had some good jobs and stuff, but my degree didn't get my jobs. Friends got me my jobs. People I knew from high school, people I knew in the telecommunications business got me all my good jobs. And nothing I learned in college helped me with those jobs. Nothing. Not a single thing. My degree that I got was an absolute lie. But I'm not going to go into that. But And I think that's why we constantly look back on those days with such fondness, because I think each and every one of us yearned to go back there. I don't think we knew how good it was. I think some of the guys did. There's some guys that stayed down there like 7 years. And, it took them like 7 years to get their degree. Well, there's more to it than that. Some of them were partying too much, and I think their grades suffered severely. Well, I know their grades suffered severely. But that's part of it, Because as it turns out, your grades didn't matter anyway. They really don't. I mean, if you want to get out and get a degree, your grades matter. But in the real world, they don't ask you what your GPA is. They don't care what classes you took. There's no discussion in a human resources meeting when you're interviewing for a job. What classes did you take that will apply to this job? Unless you're an engineer or a doctor or something. I met some really great people down there. I met some great people. And, my experience in the fraternity is bittersweet. I moved out of the house my senior year and moved into a basement apartment in a house next door because of some things that were going down. I went down in that house that I wasn't, I no longer wanted to be a part of it. And I found out worse things since I left. I'm not going to go into that right now. But I met some really good people, and I had some great times. It's kind of hard to believe that we all survived it. We didn't OD or didn't, end up in a gutter or in jail or something. I know a couple guys got arrested a couple different times just for little stupid shit. But one of the greatest things about OU the first couple of years was going to Halloween. And there was a big Halloween party on the campus of Ohio University where they shut down Court Street. And like all the students just flood the street. There's, I don't know how many students are on campus. I think when I was down there, there was like, I don't know, 20,000 or something. I don't know how many students are down there. Maybe it's only 10 because anyway, all of us, everybody puts on a Halloween costume. Just from like myself, I just wore like a rubber mask. To people don't wear any costume; they just wearing a regular clothes. To really full get-ups. There was a bunch of guys that sat on the courthouse steps, guys and gals, with like cardboard squares around them, and they pretended they were the opening scene to the Brady Bunch. I think that's what it was. And then there were some other guys that had dressed up as a rubber. I don't know how they did this, but they had like these hula hoops, and they stretched rubber between them, and they were like a dildo or a dick or something. Really bizarre stuff. And I think the thing that I missed the most about college was just there was always that hope. There was always potential for something new and exciting to happen each and every day. You never knew who you were going to meet. You never knew what was going to happen. Each and every quarter, it wasn't semesters, it was quarters back then. Each quarter there was a new teacher, a new professor, a new thing to study. And a whole new perspective on the world could be brought to you based off of what this professor would say to you or how they present their classes. I didn't really, appreciate it at the time. There's a lot of classes I took at the time we all made fun of, like anthropology and philosophy, and philosophy has never done me any good. I've learned about philosophy on my own as the years have gone by. I've gotten more into philosophy, but I've never really studied Socrates or any of these people that they tried to get us to learn back then. But you had this. You're young, your mind is fertile, you're filled with testosterone, and your hormones are pumping, and you're excited, and you're good looking, and you're young, and you've got a full head of hair, and you're skinny, and everything seems to be fun and exciting, and you're ready to go. And man, it's a great time. And if you can afford it, I wouldn't go to college if you can't afford it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Don't beat yourself up if you didn't go to college just because of the fun things. Because 9 times out of 10, the degree you pick is not going to get you a job. It's not going to help you with anything in the real world, especially in this weird, freaked up economy that we have. And I think it's the last time in my life where I didn't worry. I was a little bit of a worrier back then, and I was really paranoid back then for a variety of things that occurred in my childhood. But I was a little bit, but I didn't worry. I didn't sit around going, oh my God, what do we do now? Like now, I mean, once I got in the real world, and I got hit in the face with the reality, I was like, oh shit, this is not fun. What are we gonna do now? I mean, if you know all the things going on in my family right now with me and my wife and her family, and all the stuff going on right now, it's like, oh shit, I just want to crawl back in the bottle and pickle myself, but I can't do that. I won't do that. Back then when I drank, it was for fun. I wasn't medicating myself. If anything, I medicated myself so I could become more outgoing, because I was very shy and quiet. Now I don't need that I don't need booze to talk to people. It's funny, Bewitched is on the reruns on FETV. This has got to be one of the worst shows. I used to watch this as a kid. It's one of the worst shows in the world. But I just want to talk about it tonight because I saw my fraternity brothers in these pictures, and I really just didn't want to go. I didn't think it'd be right to spend my wedding anniversary down with a bunch of fraternity brothers in Athens. I was going to see my brother down there because he still lives down inside of Athens, and he hasn't been well, but we'll get down there eventually, hopefully. And I'm just thinking about it. They were great times, man. But I was a different person back then. I was a different person 40 years ago. I was a lot different. I'm a different man now. I'm a grown man now. And back then I was a kid. You're 18 years old. Your brain isn't fully developed. You're walking around this campus, just your head is filled with fantasies. Your head is filled with romanticized visions of the world that don't exist. Especially if you're a young man, your head is filled with all kinds of poison from society and from all that stuff. I didn't come on here to preach to you about that, but when you're on campus, you're absolutely just completely, your head is filled with conditioning and programming from society, and you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. You really don't. You don't know what you're doing, and it's funny that they put you in charge of your life at the age of 18 to either go in the military, go into college, or go get a job. And this is at a time when you're still very impressionable, and you're still very uncertain of the world around you, and you still don't know anything about life or working or responsibility or finances. And as I look back at it now, I mean, I'm fortunate. I got my debt paid off going to college. When I graduated from college, I had $10,000 in student debt between federal loans and bank loans, commercial loans. I had never really worked. I had worked in a restaurant as a host. I delivered the papers. I worked as an arts and crafts instructor at a local playground, like daycare center in my hometown. I did that for a couple of summers. And but you don't know what you're doing. And I think it's ironic as you look back on it when you realize that you're really sold a bill of goods about college, and they pump you up. And they tell you, oh, go there. It's the only way to live your life. And you go down there. And I started to kind of see the thin veneer of the lie that had been sold to me. It started to peel away as I got deeper into the classes, and I realized these classes were junk. And I started to, oh, wait a minute, why am I taking anthropology? Oh, wait a minute, why is this teacher crazy and not doing his job? Why does this teacher set up the model and just walk out of the room and never come back to the end of class? There was a lot of stuff like that. I started going, this is kind of weird. I mean, I was a kind of a person back then. I was similar to how I am now, but not as much. I questioned things back then, but not quite as deeply as I do now. Now I've made up my mind. I know everything's a lie. I know society's completely based off this weird capitalistic scheme where everything's about how they can gouge you for money and make money off of you, whether it's get you to buy some crappy product or some horrible car or buy some huge house you don't need. I didn't know any of that back then, but I sussed that something was up. So I sometimes look back and I go, did I waste 4 years of my life in this little youth utopia? I mean, was it really worth it? Other than a bunch of good memories, was it worth it? I don't know. I didn't gain anything from college classes. I have a couple of friends that I gained from it. My friend Sharon, I forgot about Sharon. I've known Sharon for 40 years now. Sharon was a woman I dated briefly my sophomore year, and then we broke up and became friends. She was like the best, not like, she was the best person in my wedding. I had a woman give me away because she's been my best and closest friend for most of my life, almost 3/4 of my life, or 2/3. I guess, yeah, I guess that's about 2/3 of my life. Sharon, if you're watching, I love you. And if you're one of my in-laws watching that and you hear that now, it's not a romantic love. It's, what do you say in Italian? El Gapo? El Gapi? I don't remember. You can correct me on that. Sharon's Italian. You're a great person. A really good person. She's been there for me. And I haven't been there nearly enough for her, I don't think. But that's a whole nother story. But she was the best person at my wedding. Leah was another friend. Leah's another friend of mine that was at my wedding that I also dated in college. I was kind of a whore in college, you know. I'm still a whore. If I was single, I'd be a whore. I'd be like Fred Garvin, male prostitute. No, not like that kind of whore. I just, when I was single, I dated quite a variety of people before I got married. And I didn't date nearly the women I wanted to in college. I just didn't have the confidence, and I was too nice. I'm still too nice and quiet. Your average woman wouldn't like me because I'm too soft-spoken and don't have any tattoos. But you know, the nice thing about college back then, this is back when there were no tattoos, there were no piercings. There were a few people on campus that had mohawks and piercings and stuff, but they were the alternative group. They were some of the really extreme art group, or the really alternative. They called them alternative, not lifestyles, but alternative music or punk rockers. but really, the average person on there, you know, everybody just dressed pretty normally. And this is back before everybody got really fat too. Like nowadays, you could swing a cat and hit a fat kid. I know what happened to skinny kids, they're all gone. But yeah, on our campus, like everybody, we're all good looking. You know, we're skinny, we had full heads of hair. Nobody was fat. There's very few people on campus that were heavy. You know, everybody smoked. I've never smoked, but like every other person on campus had a cigarette dangling from their mouth. We all drank beer. This is back when pot was still illegal, and you know, but everybody smoked dope down there. I never smoked pot, but it was pretty big. You could get any kind of drug you want on this campus, anything at all. You name it, you could get it. And this is long before meth. And I don't know, crack was probably just hitting the streets back then, but nobody was on crack. There was one guy I knew, we all knew, who was trying to get in the fraternity, but we found out he was on smack, and I think he got blackballed. Or he got arrested or something. I don't know what happened to him. He was a real piece of work. But yeah, I mean, you know, I sit here and think about it. I think all the good times and the laughs and the people I dated and the women that I thought I was in love with. That you know, it turns out it was a good thing that I didn't end up with them. I don't think it would have lasted. Our marriage wouldn't have lasted if I married half the people I thought I was going to live with forever because I was in love. Yeah, it's all about you. And I was thinking about it, because of my fraternity's 100th anniversary. My fraternity was a cool fraternity. I mean, it was cool in the sense that it wasn't your typical fraternity. I know a lot of people think, "Oh, you're in a fraternity. You're a frat boy. Good Lord, you must be a snob." No, everybody in the house was pretty cool. Everybody was just laid back and just chill. Everybody got along for the most part. I mean, not everybody was cool, but most people were. There was a few, like I said, I found out some things that I didn't know were going on down there when I was down there. And, but it was like when you walk in that house, I haven't been in the house in 25 years, but the last time I was in there, you just feel like you're home again, And I have regrets because there's certain people in the house I never really got to know. Like this guy, George, I kind of got to know him a little bit after college. We'd hang out and drink beer and stuff in Cleveland Heights, but I always liked him, but he was a pretty quiet guy, and I could never figure out what to say to him in college. I could talk to him now. He doesn't like me now, but that's the way it goes. And there's some people in the house I didn't get to know till after college. This guy named Pete. Just like this guy named Pete, who now lives in Columbus. Pete, if you're watching, this is like the nicest guy you would ever meet. This guy would do anything for you. He'd bend over backwards for you. He walks the walk, and he's never been any different. He'll tell it to you like it is, and he'll be there for you. And he's just an amazing guy. And I might see him next week because I'm going to be in Columbus next week shooting a documentary. And man, he's a good guy. And there's a lot of people you see over the years just disappear. They go MIA, and you never see or hear from them again. You don't know where they went or why they disappeared. And a lot of people go through things as life goes on. As you'll find, if you're younger, things change. You get divorced, or somebody dies, or you get sick, and it's just part of life. And college doesn't prepare you for any of that, nor should it. Samantha is talking to a clown in her living room. Okay. This is such a weird show. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to come on and talk about it tonight. No big deal. As you've seen here on my channel, I'm not really doing too much on this channel anymore. YouTube's pretty much beat it out of me. I don't feel like fighting the algorithm anymore, and I don't feel like creating the videos. They've chopped my knees out from underneath me. They barely pay me anymore. I get hardly any views anymore. I guess YouTube's moving on, changed the algorithm. They've changed everything. I'm going in for surgery at the end of this month. It's stressful to me, and it's upsetting to me. I'm having an operation on my prostate. They tell me it's minimally invasive. It's invasive surgery, but who knows what happens once they put the gas or they drop the anesthesia into my vein. Will I wake up again? I don't know. That's my only concern about this is, will I wake up, and will I ever be the same after what they do to me? Because what they're doing is they're performing a procedure called aquablation, and they basically take a long, it's about 3 foot, well, maybe 16-inch tube that's maybe a quarter of an inch in diameter, and they put it up your urethra, and it's basically a scope. I think it's like a fiber optic camera, and a water jet. It's a high-powered water jet, and then they go into your anus with like some type of sensor, and then they have this robot The doctor can see what he's doing through a computer screen. I think I've seen videos of it and stuff, and they go in and they disintegrate the center of your prostate with a high-powered water jet. And because right now I can't pee. Right now I'm unable to pee on my own, pretty much. So I have to self-catheterize myself several times a day with a catheter, which really is no big deal. It doesn't bother me at all. You know, I don't like having to do that because I have to have a schedule. I did about every 6 to 8 hours. So I have to have one with me if I'm on the road, or I have to take a break and say, excuse me for a second, I've got to go do this stuff. And it's still, you know, it's part of being a guy and getting old, because they say that like 3 things continue to grow in a guy: their ears, their nose, and their prostate. Well, my prostate is like the size of a lemon or something, which is like way too big. It's supposed to be the size of a walnut. So they're going to blast out the insides of my prostate with a high-powered water jet. And it'll take me about a month to recover, probably 3 months to fully recover. And I'm really worried about the surgery because hopefully I don't croak. It's not like they're cutting me open. So the chances of me dying are probably pretty slim, unless for some reason I'm so stressed out I vapor lock or something on the table. I don't know. But if I do and I disappear, you'll know what happened. I mean, I kicked a bucket or something. I just want to stop using this. But I've got 3 channels. I've got the Midnight Mutant Theater, Skating Bear Studios, and PTPOP. So who knows what will happen. But as I said, you know, college was a good time, and now you're older and you're faced with all these decisions you've got to make with your health and your finances and retirement and stuff like that. And life gets real serious pretty quick once you step off the campus of that youth utopia. It does. And that might sound like, you know, gloom and doom, but it's the truth. You know, and how you handle it and how you deal with it is the trick. You got to learn how to wrestle your demons to the ground and conquer them. You got to learn how to handle things the best you can without falling apart. And trust me, I've had, you know, like I said, I wrestled with the bottle quite a bit. That was my way of coping with things. What started off as just a thing to drink in college for fun turned out to be something I used as a coping mechanism. Fortunately for me, it didn't get out of hand. But you wake up to the realities of life and you find out that most of what you're brainwashed into thinking as a kid is not true. Romance isn't true, sex isn't true, working isn't true, money isn't true, cars aren't true, none of it is. It's all a lie. And you can take that or leave it, but you'll find out. You'll find out really quick what it's all about. And I've tried to tell people on here about call centers and about other things, but you know, I can't talk about everything because there's other people to say the same thing, and they say it better, but still people don't listen. People are still going to go out and do what the world tells them to do, and then they'll go, oh geez, why aren't I happy? Why I've got money, I got the car, I got the house and the wife, but I'm miserable. I can't stand my wife, the kids are driving me crazy, the house is too big. You know, there's a hole in the roof, my car's falling apart, it's a brand new Mercedes, but it's a piece of junk, it's expensive to get it repaired because all the parts come from Germany, yada, yada, yada. It's like, you know, and then you go, oh God, I wish I was back in college where I didn't have any of these worries. But that's just part of life. You can't get away from some of this stuff. If you want to live the American dream, you got to invest in a lot of the nightmare behind it too. There's a big nightmare in the American dream they don't talk about. They candy coat the American dream. The American dream really is a nightmare, candy coated in fantasy. And then you peel away the fantasy and go, oh, that's a lie, and that's a lie, and that's a lie. Oh, she's a lie. Oh, her boobs are fake. Oh, he really doesn't have $1 million. He's got $1 million, but it's $1 million in credit card debt and car loans and gambling debt. I mean, you know, it's funny as you get older, you start to spot the charlatans. You start to spot the people that are lying to you and trying to pull a fast one on you. You can tell it. You can sense it and see it pretty quick. Like this fraternity brother of mine who's older than me. Boy, I don't know if I've even ever met him. But I always know that when I get an email from him, he's looking for a handout. He wants me to donate money to the fraternity. I'm sorry, dude. As much as I love my time in Theta Chi, I would never give any money to Theta Chi or to Ohio University. Why? I've got my reasons about Theta Chi. We'll keep it at that. But the Ohio University is a lie. Ohio University manufactures degrees that are a complete lie. They'll never get any alumni donations from me. Not to mention that they declined me for acceptance in the master's program for documentary filmmaking. They're a bunch of charlatans. But every time I get an email from this guy, I know immediately he's like, hey Pete, I was just at 100th. I'd like to hope you can talk to us and get back and connected with things. I'm like, sure, dude, you're gonna start asking me for money. I know you are. You know darn well. I told my wife, I heard from this guy so and so, and she's like, oh, he's gonna ask for money, isn't he? I said, he hasn't done it yet, but he's going to. He's working his way. He's slithering back into my life. And sorry, if you're listening to me, Jeff, I'm never going to give you a dime. Theta Chi will never get any more money from me, ever. And there's lots of reasons why. Lots. Had a good time down there. But what I saw down there, and now that I'm a grown man, and what you're putting out in the world, there's some really fucked up stuff going on. Or there was when I was there, when I was in that house. So, I don't know what it's like now. It could be different now. I don't know. But you're not getting any money from me unless you have to take me to court for some reason. And then we'll see. Because now I've got attorneys. Now I've got money to fight with attorneys and stuff. You know, so it's a different world than when I was 18. I don't know, man. So it's now Monday morning, guys. Everybody out there, peace out. If you got to go to college, I hope you had a fun time. I hope you're out of debt. It's hard to get out of debt. I managed to pay off my loans because I got lucky in a way. I refinanced a house that my mom had left me, and I dumped my college loans into that and paid them all off. My loans were paid off by like 1994. And I had kept deferring them too because I wasn't working for a good portion of time after college. So I got mine paid off, but I wouldn't have gotten paid off in time if my mother hadn't passed away and left me our house that we lived in together. So I used the equity in the house to pay off the loans. And if you don't have that luxury, it's going to be hard, man, because most people are at least $50,000 to $100,000 in debt. In this economy that's only paying 15 to 18 bucks an hour, and you need a car, you can't have everything. Now, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't move out of mom and dad's house, get an apartment, have a car with a job that's paying 18 bucks an hour unless you have like 14 roommates. So something's got to give. You either got to stay home with mom and dad, and hopefully they don't charge you rent or not a lot, or you got to take the bus to work, and you can't have a car. Because there's no way anybody today coming out of college making 18 bucks an hour can have a $400 car payment, a $1,600 a month rent payment, car insurance, renter's insurance, buy clothes, go out, date. There's no way. Something's got to give. And if you put it on a credit card, you're an idiot. You're just an absolute moron because you're paying 22% interest on those credit cards. You'll never get it paid off, and it's compounded interest. It's not simple interest, it's compounded. So you're paying interest on top of interest, and it's harder and harder. It's impossible to pay those off. I should have been a finance major. I understand finance. I'm kind of like my mom. I have a pretty good mind for money. But anyway, guys, I'm going to hit the road. Peace out, everyone. Hope you have a good week. And I'll probably be on here again this week. I'm going to Columbus. I'll probably broadcast live while I'm driving down there, providing where the sun is in the sky. If I'm going down in the morning, it'll be on my right. So the phone will still probably blaze and the phone will overheat. I'm doing a documentary with a really, Very talented artist, young lady named Fatima Taylor. She's an amazing artist at a high university. She's in the doctorate program down there. She just got her master's at a high university. She's a fascinating artist. Her artwork is just stunning, and and her story is really interesting. So I'm going to be recording her in a mini documentary. It'll probably be maybe 15 minutes when it's all said and done. But we're going to down and shoot in her studio in Columbus, in the basement of her and her husband's home. And that'll be probably about it. I'll interview her, shoot some B-roll, get her on camera, do some couple of ideas I have, and then hopefully I get to see my fraternity brother Pete. If not, whatever. I just, I'm just so tired right now. I gotta go to bed. So have a good night, guys. Have a good week. Bye.